Welcome to the Property Talk Show, proudly brought to you by Noble Property Development, with opportunities in 4 different developments. 2 townhouse complex opportunities in Randfontein, one suburb called Green Hills, the other suburb called Robin Park. There's a 30-unit establishment there with only 12 units remaining. And then on the Green Hills, still in Randfontein, there is only 8 units available. Get in touch with Noble Property Development so you can find out opportunities on how you can invest there on that subtitle townhouse complex that is up and coming there. And then you've got 2 other developments if you're around the Johannesburg North or Roodepoort/Krugersdorp. One is in Bearsnodier. That's where Noble Property Development is building about 120 rental apartments. 120, and they're also building 220 houses. There are some stand opportunities available there on the Bearsnodier development, but the most exciting one everybody's going crazy for, which is selling out quick, is in North Riding Equestrian Estates. Now, phase 1 sold out around the festive season last year in 2022. Phase 2 is almost sold out. Let me just say, the investments start from 250,000 with an equivalent of a 250 squares stand. That's available, that opportunity. Get in touch with the Noble Property Development. That is on phase 2. That is about to be sold out, because on phase 3, we will be selling building packages, which you're going to have to get your approval from your bank so you can get finance, and then that's how you can join our estate as well over there. Myself as an ambassador, I've also invested. I always grab some opportunities thanks to Noble Property Development. We're talking property today, and I'm sitting with another property developer. He's a property investor. He's been in the space longer than I have. He's got a lot to teach us. He's got a lot to share, and I'm very excited that today we're going to be learning from a property investor and an entrepreneur. He owns a company called Umnotho. He'll tell us it's a group, Umnotho Group, or is it Umnotho Investments, or is it Umnotho Properties? He'll explain. But ladies and gentlemen, and all our property lovers, property investors, hustlers and squatters, welcome Mr. Leslie Gama to the to the Property Talk Show on the Hustlers Corner. How you doing, my brother?
Thank you. I know. Great.
Thank you for sharing around.
Thank you.
No, we appreciate you, my brother. Maybe the first thing I'd like to say is the name of the company is Umnotho.
Okay. So Umnotho is it's made up of 3 entities actually,
Okay.
yeah, with different responsibilities. So the first one is Umnotho for Empowerment, the second one is Umnotho Leroux Investment, and then the third one is Umnotho Financial Institute, which we call a community bank, yeah.
That's beautiful. So what do you guys do?
We have 3 main programs, as I've explained, with the 3 entities. So the first entity is a non-profit organization. So when we started organizing as a community, because with us we've taken a community approach to housing, or a cooperative approach to housing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So we started mobilizing as a community resources to buy land, and that's where we started. And the idea was that we would put the money together, and then we'll buy land, subdivide it, and each and every person will get a stand, and then they'll build their own house. And that's where we started. Yeah, that was in 2011. Yeah. All right.
So you've been doing it for over 10 years now?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is mobilizing to buy land, obviously rezoning it, and adhering to the rules and regulations of your municipality, of course.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, tell us more. I mean, we're not in a hurry. Don't worry, there are no adverts. Just let's explain, because our audiences, they just want to learn. You know, this is an educational platform. So just take your time, feel free, share knowledge. Let's educate our younger brothers and sisters out there.
All right. No, thanks. So when we started, for all of us, it's personal. You know, we come from my informal settlements in Millersdrift. I grew up in an informal settlement, without having a proper house and proper facilities around you. And that's how we started to say we couldn't even improve the spaces where we erected our shacks. And the idea was that maybe we should buy land. And simply because the land that was around us By then it was dolomatic, it was invaded, so we couldn't even improve it. So the only option that we had was to buy our own land or to wait for government to give us free houses. So we couldn't wait for government. So that's why we decided, let's rather look at buying this land. So it was about 12 families when we started in 2011. But I'll just share a bit on what really inspired that move. So we had initially, when Umnotho started, we were doing farming projects. And we wanted to, so the idea of Umnotho was intentional, hence the name Umnotho, which is wealth or economy, and for empowerment. So that's the NPO that we started as. And the idea was that most of us that were starting Umnotho were coming from different charity organizations, working with communities in that space, trying to improve our lives, you know. And I think for me personally, I was just tired of being in a charity space, and I wanted to do more developmental work. And part of that was to uplift ourselves from those living conditions to a better environment, which is proper housing with services. And that's how we started. We save 150 rands a month towards this idea of buying land. And in 2015, there were about 650 people that came together to mobilize such funds. And we raised 4.5 million rands, which was enough to buy 28 hectares of land. That is in Mellesdrift, not far from the Beyers Naudé project in Noble Properties.
So that was your first farm?
Yes, this was the first farm that we purchased.
And then what processes did you go through in rezoning it?
So we went through normal township application processes. First, you start with your EIAs, your environmental studies, all those fauna, ecological studies, heritage impact assessments, you know, just to check that there's no graves and things like that, or artifacts that are important that needs to be preserved. So we did all those studies, and then we submitted, and then we were approved for that. And we also, parallel to that, we also had to do a township application process as well, which these are the two processes that leads to a township establishment. Quite expensive and time-consuming as well.
Very time-consuming. And then you also get some of your investors getting impatient.
Exactly.
Others, maybe they want their refunds. They want
No, of course. And then the longer it takes, people are thinking, this is a scam. Yeah, exactly. So those are the challenges that we went through. And but we were also learning a lot, from such experiences, how to organize. And one of the things that we really, it's understanding the importance of those processes that we had to go through. And I'll give you an example. When you learn about things like infrastructure, services, or designing infrastructure, you also learn the importance of those cabs. Or things, but those are very important infrastructure components that you need for the services in that township. So it was also a learning experience, tedious, but also it taught us a lot, yeah.
And then continue, because I disturbed you there. I want you to continue explaining the story. You got into Mellesdrift. You raised 4.5 million as a group of what? How many? You said 500?
650.
650. You bought that farm. You went through the process, and tell us more.
Yeah. So when we bought the first piece of land was about 8 hectares of land. We bought it for 1.5 million rands. In that particular area in Mellesdrift, it's still, sort of a white-dominated space. And the landowners around there were not happy with us buying that land. We had to keep quiet for the transaction to go through before we could even announce that we already bought land. And immediately when we submitted the township establishment application, we had about 140 objections. People that were saying, no, you can't be building RDPs or low-cost houses next to us and all that. And, also it was a learning curve. Issue of land is contested, especially in certain areas where...
It's very sensitive.
Yeah,
I guess that's the reason why even the Beyers Naudé development, Noble property development, has taken like over 2 years now because of the objection from the neighbors. And rightfully so, because they don't know you. They don't know if you are coming here maybe to bring shacks, maybe to devalue their place. They've got different concerns. And obviously, you know, the first instinct us Botaki is always like, they don't want us here. And I want you to share more because I want us to get deep into this information on what are some of the challenges that happen behind the scenes. Because people out there, they don't know that you guys have to go through a lot in developing these lands.
No, exactly. And then you know, one of the arguments that they brought forward was that, I mean, they've invested. You find Guti, a lot of the white people that are residing in that area are older, you know. They've invested in those properties as their pension. And you coming into that space, obviously, there are those threats that obviously they don't know what you bring in that space. And some of the things that they were concerned about, and they're genuine, they're legit. It's waste management, noise, you know, noise pollution, and crime and things like that, which, yeah, it can be debated, but yeah, I think to a certain extent they can be. You can say they're genuine, you know, concerns. And fortunate for us, we had Mukhali City as the municipality, which intervened and organized a tribunal for the concerned landowners and ourselves to negotiate on the table. And then we sat on the table and we negotiated. Part of that, we had to agree that we will put a boundary wall around the property. We would put up a waste management plan. Would also, and then we also agreed not to have a liquor license in the development as part of the compromises. As part of the compromises. But yeah, at the end of the day, we reached an agreement, and their fears were somehow, went down. We're bringing a proper development because we come from informal settlements. We also are looking for a decent housing, so we can't be duplicating an informal settlement, you know, coming from informal and going plant another informal settlement. So, and then I think they were happy with the proposal that we put forward, and we've been in communication now, making sure that we update them on the progress and so forth, that we are actually committed and following all these processes that are required, and that's what we're doing exactly.
Like the fact that you are speaking about transparency. Number one, when you got into the area, as much as they were objecting or opposing your development, you followed the processes of the municipality, which is the government, which is the mandate is to have property developers like yourself developing all these different places so people get decent housing. But obviously then when you get into an area, people don't know what you're about to bring. So it's always nice to also then have that opportunity to, as you are saying, the municipality went through a tribunal and put all of you guys on the table, where you then have an open conversatory relationship with the previous owners or current owners who've been there for forever or for however long, where then they get to understand, what are you bringing here? What type of development is it going to be? Our concerns are these: waste management, noise, alcohol. How are you going to tackle these? And then, as you're saying also, as time went on, you kept them on the loop, communicating with them, because sometimes it's just the fear of the unknown. Once they start meeting you, once they start understanding what you are up to, once they start understanding the type of development that you're bringing in the area, once they also start hearing from you the potential positives that your development is going to bring onto their area, also in bringing value to their area, I think then, you know, it's easier for them to slowly open up to lifting their objections, right?
Yeah. Definitely. And they also take interest in the project. And remember, for us, we started as primarily a low-income housing development. You'll find Guti, some of their workers are also living in their properties or living in those informal settlements, and they also want to assist the people that are working in those spaces so that they can also get decent housing. And some of them participated in that process, invested in the project to assist their workers, and which was quite a positive, you know.
So the Mulder's Drift project, what was it called? What is it called?
Umnotho village.
Umnotho Village.
Yes.
So, Umnotho Village, is it an estate? Is it a township development? Is it a townhouse development? Is it a country estate? What type of a development is it? And how many units or stands or houses are in there? Or just maybe to go in a little bit deeper
Yeah.
on the development.
We are developing it's a mixed development that incorporates your low cost housing to middle income housing. And the reason for that, it's simply because you also don't want to put low income people in the same in one space and separate them from maybe your higher income, because then there's no cross subsidization. Because we had limited resources in acquiring land and pushing or advancing this development. So we had to partner with people that can actually afford. So part of the land is secured for such houses that can, I mean, we've already started building. Some of the people are even building like around 350 to 500,000 rands worth houses.
That's what, like 1 or 2 bedrooms?
3 bedrooms,
Okay,
yes,
nice.
mostly, yeah. And then you'd have one person who's starting with a back room, as Uguti, let me just find something to live in the meantime while still saving to build. So we are accommodating all those income streams, and because we would also want to achieve an integrated development where it's not just the housing, but it's commercial spaces as well, yeah, and community facilities like your clinics, your schools, and so forth. So currently we have capacity to accommodate 2,000 housing units in the 4 properties that we've secured. And there are...
Congratulations, by the way. 2,000, you are making an impact in society. You are
Thank
helping
you.
2,000 people. You're actually helping 2,000 households, not just 2,000 people.
Yes.
That could potentially even be 10,000 people that you're helping,
No, of
changing
course,
lives.
of course. There's still a need for housing, so we are continuing to mobilize resources to buy more land. So within that development, there will be rental units as well, because that is also a need. You know, abantu abanye come from different spaces and they just need a place to be accommodated for a short period of time. So we're also making room for that. And yeah, as I've mentioned, that there will be commercial spaces. We currently we recently got a banking license and an NCR.
Oh, congratulations, my brother.
Thank you.
Nice,
So
nice.
the idea is to also accommodate such businesses in the land so that we can really take advantage of, or we can tap into the basically to go more into the value chain of developing a house, from building it to brick making to financing it even, and that's what we aiming to do. Yeah.
And let's get into that. What are the stages of eventually finishing up a development? So you did say you formed a, lack of a better word, crowdfunding model, 600 people or 650, raised 4.5 million, bought a farm, how many hectares was that?
Currently we have 32 hectares.
Yeah, and then rezoned it, went through the processes of the municipality, the government,
Yeah.
got your rezoning licenses, etc., all the certification. After, obviously, the government would come and do your geotech studies, and you have to pay for that, getting your town planner, and also getting your architectural designs on the type of homes that people can build. And maybe let's start from the smallest stands where they what is it, subtitle, or what type of houses are they, and also your biggest stands and affordability, and just the processes on how you move from me getting my title deed, my ERF number, and maybe I've paid for the land. Now, maybe let's say in Sharasu Noble Property Development, they would accommodate people who are blacklisted by the bank with their own way on how they come up with payment plans for people. But let's say your clients, most of them are people who work, so they can get like government loans or home loans or bank loans from the from the banks to then get a building loan to build their house. And what is the next step and the next step after that? So I would just want you to simplify and explain the entire process of putting together a development.
Development, yeah. So after
And guys, you're not going to get all the answers here, but this is just to give you a bit of an idea. You're going to have to go do your own research. Some of you guys are going to have to attend courses. Some of you guys are going to have to go, depending on whatever you want to do, get your accreditations from the government, follow the rules and the regulations, because compliancy in this case, when it comes to property development, is a big issue. Once you don't comply with the government, they can come because you do not go according to what the government wants, or institutions that belong to the government, the likes of our NHR, BC, etc., etc.
Yeah. So after getting approvals, you first get the EIA approvals or the ROD approvals, and then
please explain abbreviation for abantu abangazi.
All right,
What is
all
an EIA? What is an ROD?
So EIA would be the environmental impact assessment. So so that you pursue as a project or as a developer to so basically you do all these studies to make sure Guti you don't impact the environment negatively, and then you put measures on protecting the environment and making sure that your development will impact the environment less and will not disrupt the environment. So that is one study that's also important, and that involves a number of processes, like I've explained, your fauna and flora, the plant and animals. By the way, we got African potato in one of the projects that we did.
Nice.
And part of that study was that we need to protect that or to relocate that to the parks area. You also need to check whether there are no graves, lapo, and things like that you would impact.
And maybe some of the trees that are that have got value, because some trees you can't just cut up.
Yes.
Some trees are value.
I think some trees are on the I think it's called the red book or something like that. Yeah, so they are protected, so you can't actually
destroy those trees. You can't.
Exactly. So you have to protect them. Like the African potato, as I've mentioned,
Yeah.
it's one of those plants that you'd have to really take care
Preserve,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, after getting the environmental impact assessment approved, so that's approved with the Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and then you would submit again to the municipality now for a township establishment application, and we did that, and the municipality approved all our developments. That is also a process on its own. It involves, now that's the process that involves a town planner. The other process involves environmental specialist. So those are parallel processes.
And an environmental specialist wants their own money as well for the job they're going to do for your development.
Exactly.
A town
exactly.
planner also wants their own money for the job they're going to do for your development.
Exactly.
And
Just to give you an example, for the environmental specialist, I think we paid about, for each property, so we have four properties. For each property, we paid about 90 to 100,000 rands. And that's just environmental specialist on their own, not even including the studies that are inside that package. Like the fauna the ecological studies are a cost on their own. Heritage impact assessment, it's a cost on its own. And traffic impact assessment, it's a cost on its own. So I mean, when you're looking at these studies, if your development is below 30 hectares or so, I think then you'd be looking at 700 or 800,000 rands, almost or closer to 1 million rands that you'd have to pay for these studies, depending on the size of your development, of course.
And then at some point you have to put in a boundary wall, of course, the fence around your property, your development. And then obviously you've got bulk services that you have to put in as well.
And that's not included in that.
Yeah.
Because that's another cost. Doing engineering designs for your roads, your water, your sewer, and so forth, stormwater, that's another cost. And normally it's around 10% of the actual the project cost. So if the project will cost 3 million rands, you'd pay 300,000 rands for the designs to go through those processes of making sure that your designs are approved and you can be ready for infrastructure. So those are the processes that we had to go through. So we have 4 developments, so they are in different stages. So currently we are piloting a project which we have already started to do. But what we have done with that development, and I think we've also, it's kind of a protest for us. With that development, there are some of the processes we couldn't afford to do. And we decided as a community group, no, we're going to pause these ones and go ahead with certain processes that we want to advance, and later on will come. Because government is also doing that. I mean, it takes people from wherever they are, dumps them in a certain space without water and proper infrastructure, and somehow, I'll give an example. In one of the projects, government dumped about 400 families next to our development. We had to supply water to that community.
Sure.
Because they're getting water through trucks and all that. So if you're not there, when the truck is there to give you water, I mean, you'd look at the alternative place that can also provide water to you. So so we also are looking at a semi-formal model of approaching it. Because when we started, our model was based on the fact that we will get the land, we would do the studies, and when it's ready, then we'd approach government to partner with us to provide infrastructure. But that has, taken forever. We've been knocking on government's doors. In 2019, we had an agreement with government to package our project and cost it for infrastructure. It hasn't happened. So we're still waiting, and it's a frustrating process, and that is why we decided to look at a semi-formal model. We are still staying very close to regulation, but obviously some of the processes would bypass for later, and we are looking at using alternative resources. Like, instead of tapping to municipal water, we don't have a choice. We'd have to use the borehole water that we found on the land. Instead of connecting to municipal sewer, then we would use alternative water treatment plants, because just tapping I'll give you just an example. In one of the developments, just to connect to a municipal line, it's about 900 meters away, but that project, it's costing us almost 6 million rands, because we'd have to build a pump station to pump the sewer, because then it's not flowing, it's not downflowing, but it's flowing. So it's an expensive process, and that is why we decided, let's pack some of these, and then let's look at how we can achieve development, and pausing some of the processes for later, until we get a township proclamation. So we're at that stage now, because we can't issue AMA title deeds at this moment, because that's a process on its own. That needs a Surveyor General's office to approve AMA layout plans and so forth. So what we are doing is we are advancing the development, but providing AMA permission to occupy. So that piece of land that the person gets. So currently we're allocating 150 square meters to a person that has joined our development, or that has bought into our development. Back then in 2011, people were paying 6,700 rands for that piece of land. Currently, if you need the same piece of land, you'd have to pay 55,000 rands. And because we are now commercializing, or actually adopting a model that is more sustainable, less relying on government, but so that we can do it ourselves. So once you get that piece of land, you'd get an architect. So the architect would draw up that plan and so forth, and then you would build. And then and as I've mentioned, that we are still pursuing the township proclamation process. So township proclamation, it's the last stage of its development, where now you're saying, this is the land, all the necessary studies have been done, all the designs have been done, you've included water, you've included sewer, you have a plan for energy and so forth, and then now you can get the township proclaimed. And once it's proclaimed, you can then start issuing out AMA title deeds. You'll be able to issue out AMA title deeds. So we're running this pilot project with the families that have started in 2011, so that we can also learn what it takes to build. Because developing a property is one aspect. Now building is another aspect. And remember, we're working with low-income people that don't necessarily have the resources to actually see through all these necessary processes, because building also has its own processes to meet those building standards, as you have mentioned, our NHBRC standards and so forth. So we're working on that. We're applying for that registration or that licensing or that through that authority, NHBRC, so that we can also facilitate the process when people are building houses, to make sure that they're building correctly, mixing the foundations are reinforced, the mixing of the cement is proper, with correct ratios. For example, even the types of cement that you need to use. I mean, there's the MUA 32R and 42R, which is for foundations and so forth. So learning all those processes so that we can do it proper. We can do it proper. I think we owe it to ourselves to do it right. I think, yeah.
How do you manage the impatience that comes from some of your investors who get pissed off that these processes are taking too long? Some of them probably end up losing trust for your project.
Yeah, so definitely. One of the things that just in the beginning of the project, one of the challenges that we came across is that I would have invested 6,700 rands in the project, and 2 months later or 6 months later, I have an emergency. I need funds.
I need my money back.
Yeah, I need my money back. So we would refund at first, but you'd find it was said to refund a person while they haven't even satisfied their housing needs. And this is why we had to think of coming up with this or pursuing this banking license, to say, can we at least then, instead of you having to forfeit this property, can we then borrow it to you? And then you can then later pay it back. So that was one of the
Actually, you are helping this person.
Yes.
Because they're going to regret it 3 or 4 years later. Damn it. I should not have
Exactly.
taken my refund.
You
If
see.
only my investment would have continued and I would not have touched that money. This is how much my returns would be, or they'd be worth by now.
Exactly. And that was one of the strategies. But also what informed that banking license was the fact that people were already saving beyond the 6,700 rands that we had initially agreed upon. So, and then there was a need now to think, and when you start engaging those people to say, why are you paying more than you are supposed to? And they were saying, Guti, I'm saving towards now building a house, understanding Guti, building a house is expensive. But that wasn't a platform for that. So we had to pursue the right license to manage those deposits, because those are savings now. Because what would be the expectation? Good, it happens now. I would have to pay back your 3,000 rands that you've put extra after 5 years. Should we be paying you interest? How much? So hence we approach. So that was one of the strategies in making sure that people can cope with the length of the project. The other thing was constant communication. Meetings. Every month we had community meetings. We had meetings where we sit down, we update, we make sure that we are in the space, we communicate, you are there. We can answer questions, we can update people on the progress, and also update on the challenges that we are facing. And that has helped us to carry throughout those years,
What is the longest time that any of your developments has taken before starting to build? Let me not say finish, because you can't all finish at the same time. Probably other houses, somebody else might take to build their house another 2 years. That's why other developments will say you've got only 3 years from the time of buying the stand to you actually having even to build your house, or you've got 5 years. Or others, it's different because maybe it's fractional investments.
You see, for us as a developer to reach the building stage, I think it's quite tricky to put it into a time frame, because there's a number of processes in between, back and forth. That's why
I'm saying the longest time that it has taken for your longest development.
I would say 8 years. From land to building. Yeah, so our first project took that long, 8 years, and because of those processes that were there, and again because we had limited resources to do certain things. So even if we wanted to hurry, but for example, a simple thing like appointing a town planner, because the town planner would cost you 100,000 rands. We had to find out, Gucci, do we even have that 100,000 rands? Will we be able to afford all this? So taking those decisions also is informed by finances that we had. So yeah, but to reach that stage, it took us 8 years to unlock.
But obviously, because that was your first development as well.
Yes,
You
yes.
did a lot of things not knowing much.
Exactly.
I doubt right now, moving forward, you'll have any other development taking that long because now you know more than you did then.
Of course. It will be quicker, but still, development is tricky. So it's land specific. I would give an example. You'd find, Guti, in one of the properties, let's say, for example, your sewer needs to cross a river. Now, that requires a different process, like to get a water use license for you to build that pipe over the river. So that will also delay you. Or you'd find, Guti, in certain spaces, maybe the area is rocky, and maybe you might need to change your layout or to accommodate such, So it's quite tricky to put it into a specific time frame.
Yeah.
How long a development will take, yeah, because the dynamics are different in each and every portion of land, yeah.
Lovely. And now you're developing, but then you've got this other process that is going concurrent or parallel to this process because you've got financial needs or financial concerns of your investors and potential investors as well. Let's talk about the solution that you guys came up with of, for lack of a better word, a bank. And the reason I'm doing this, I don't want to get into trouble and problems with the government. And, they come for you, actually. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys have got a bank. But I think sometimes it's very important to be very careful with your wording.
Exactly.
And to come up with that solution to help these people create this sort of a fund. You'll tell us what it's called, so that you can help them with affordability and the financial needs for these developments that you guys are building. Tell us more about the, lack of a better word,
Yeah.
bank that you guys have been busy with, project.
All right. So so the entity is Umnotho Financial Institute. So we have a cooperative cooperative financial institute license. So it's a deposit-taking license. It's regulated, and the license is issued by the Reserve Bank, Prudential Authority. So yeah, so it's the first tier in banking, or I would say in cooperative banking. So you'd have the first tier, which is the CFI, United Cooperative Financial Institute, and the second one is the cooperative bank. So once you have, I think, 1.5 million rands deposits, then and the infrastructure that's required, then you can register as a cooperative bank. And then once you have, I don't know if the regulations have been updated, once you have 10 million rands, then you can register a mutual bank, and then 250 million rands, a commercial bank. So we are the first tier of banking, I would say, which
Congratulations.
is... Thank you. And also we had to apply for an NCR certificate, which we recently got, to be able to issue building loans. So the objective of the institute is to first build up savings so that we save towards building these houses. And then loans will then complement those savings. So you don't get a loan if you don't have savings. So because we also need to promote a culture of saving. So the idea is that so there are two products in this institute, or what we call a community bank. You save normal savings that allows any other member to save. And then there's a specific saving product for building, which is a building savings account. So I think currently we working at 7% interest on that particular account. And then later, when you need to build a house, you would then get a building loan. So we haven't started issuing building loans as yet because we just recently got our NCR. So we're not allowed to issue loans without it. Then that loan is illegal. That person has the right not to pay that loan if you don't have an NCR license, by the way. So we will be issuing the first loans. There's already a demand. I mean, we've already started with the first project, and we are working on putting that product together so that it's affordable to our members. Given the fact that most of the members are low income families, and mostly women and single mothers that are actually looking forward to provide homes for their families. So yeah.
Anybody who might be interested out there who might want to check out your opportunities at your developments, do you guys have a website, or where can they go?
Yeah, so our website is www.umnotho.org.za.
So umnotho.org.za.
Umnotho.org.
with an H, ne?
Yeah, Umnotho with an H. So UMNOTHO. Yes, Umnotho, yeah. And you can also Google Umnotho Village and then get locations. You can come on site, view. It's a free space. So everyone, yeah. So Konamanje to get a residential stand, to be part of this project. So to get which is the first entry to the space. It's to get a residential stand where you can build your own house or your rental units or whatever you want to build, as long as within the confinements of the
regulations.
Yes. It's 55,000 rands, 450 square meters. But you can also get a bigger stand. Currently, if you want additional land, you would pay 150 per square meter. So
150 rands
150 per square meter, over and above the 150 square meters. So if you get 150 square meters, that's 55,000 rands. But additional to that, there will be 150. Yeah.
So your land stands, smallest one would start from 150 squares. Do they differ, or you only have standard 150, and then from there it's per square meter to increase?
Yes. So 150 is the standard. It's the standard entry, and then you can increase as you go. Yeah. So the biggest site that we have so far is I think 450 square meters. Yeah.
Nice. That's incredible, because those are affordable rates, and congratulations for making it affordable for the people out there. And the areas?
We in Miller's so all our developments are around Miller's one is closer to Cosmo City, in a Nooitgedacht area, yeah. So, but we are around in Miller's Krugersdorp, yeah.
That's incredible. Congratulations, my brother. We're very proud of what you guys are doing. And maybe any more information that you think I might not have touched on that you'd like to share out there with the public?
Yeah, so over and above so we also had an opportunity. So one of the portions of land that we bought had an old filling station and a shopping complex. And then the community said, hey, you know what, maybe after buying that property, we're actually approached by some of the oil companies to say, can we resuscitate this filling station? And yes.
Oh, it's an old. Okay.
Yes. But the location is still ideal, Nice. And then because we also bring in those numbers with the houses that will be built there. And we decided as a community to form a cooperative that primarily looks at the business interest or the opportunities around our housing development. And we are pursuing that filling station and that shopping complex. Nice. And also putting rental units. So people can also take part in that. You can buy shares into it. It's a share, it's 4,500 rands, and then you can be part of that. And all our developments are member-owned, member-controlled, and then we share the profits. So we're taking a cooperative approach to development where we all come together and then share the proceeds, with the surplus, or the surplus in whatever way that we can raise it. And it's quite an exciting project as well, yeah.
And how's the future looking like for Umnotho? What are some of the things that you guys want to do? Do you want to do shopping centers later or malls? Or you just want to focus on residential and helping as many people as possible, but in afford shelter and obviously investors? Or what are your future plans?
Sure. Yeah, it's it's quite fascinating and quite
Exciting as well,
exciting.
man.
Yeah. So currently we're setting up a brick making plant.
Nice.
Because we will need 20 million bricks to build this entire village.
Nice.
And then we're also looking at, in that same property that has an old filling station, so there's a supermarket there and there's a hardware there. So we're looking at actually taking over that hardware so that we can plug in to continue, making housing affordable by, collaborating or cooperating to secure those, to buy building materials so that we can make it cheaper. So we're looking at such avenues that can actually plug in, and we allow people to come in with their ideas to plug in. And say, for example, we had a proposal. One guy wants to do door frames, and you say, "You're welcome. Here's land." We also do business incubation, by the way. We have a partner organization which is called Seeds of Africa. They've plugged in, also incubating businesses. And when you graduate, so you do a six weeks course, which they call a micro MBA. When you graduate, they would put a seed into your business, and then you would then start operating. And we would provide the land and space for you to operate. We have about 14 businesses that are currently operating in our land, starting from your hair salons, your laundries. So there's a number of businesses that are there. So so we allow people to come and because, owning land is such an enabler. I mean, as I've mentioned, with these businesses that are coming into space, I mean, you can imagine people were struggling to accommodate the ideas that they had because they needed land. And we're actually opening up this land to people to come and really, generate income from those spaces. Yeah.
That's incredible, my brother. Two last questions. The first one is actually an advice. Look at them on that camera. Potential future property developers, people who want to follow your route, your journey, and with some of the mistakes that you've made and with all of the lessons that you've learned, what advice would you like to give to future property developers out there? You can look at that camera and speak to them.
All right. I would say location is important. The first thing, location is very, very important. And also, seek information, but sure, there's lots of people who have walked this journey, and it's important to seek information so that you avoid some of these challenges that some developers went through. And also, if you can collaborate, always find ways to collaborate. It makes the work easier. I think, those are the three things that I can, say at the top of my mind. Right?
And then lastly, we're not restricting it to property investors or property people or developers. What would you like to say to the community at large? The issue of land has been I think, on anyone's mind, or on any South African, or let me say African, the issue of land is always top of mind, land ownership. And you are participating in that space. You are going through communicating with investors, communicating with the families, communicating with the governments, adhering to their rules and regulations. You've been going through the challenges. Maybe some of your current investors, bale roja sometimes. There's a lot you've learned. And I'm sure there might just be things out of your knowledge and your experience you'd like to say to South African public out there. And what is that message?
Land is important. Land is important because land is an enabler. Let's go out there, try and get as much land as possible, because with that land there's so much that people can do with land. And land also, I think land is also an issue of dignity. I remember I remember I was in Mozambique somewhere, and I was just telling my story to a friend that I met there to say, I don't have a piece of land. And this guy looked at me funny and said, "What do you mean you don't have a piece of land? Where are you from? Are you African?" it was shocking to him that to hear that.
You don't own a piece of Africa, but you call
Exactly.
yourself an African.
Exactly. If you can, try and secure a piece of land.
I like what you're saying, and there's always a quote. I don't know I heard it from Oprah Winfrey, but different people quote different people. I always reiterate that whenever you get an opportunity to buy land, buy it because God is not making any more.
Exactly.
And whenever you're not buying it, come back a year later and see how much it is and how much you could have spent a year before.
Exactly. And if you get that opportunity, just sit on that land and just enjoy it, That's an amazing experience. For the first time in my life, I remember that feeling, just touching the ground that I would one day call home. That was an amazing feeling.
Felt great, right?
Yeah.
Ke a leboha abuti Leslie. I'm humbled to host you on the platform. We're excited to meet you. Looking forward to other potential visits or collaborations that we might have. We're all in the same space. We're all preaching the same message. And may the good Lord bless your developments and your initiatives and your vision. And relebila holo little shaila around and speak to us. And I'd like to greet all of the people of Umnotho village. And because it is so affordable, somebody like me can buy something for like 150 squares for 55,000 rands. Nangabe mhlawumbe nginenyuki ngishaya isikole somewhere nyana esilahlile angavele ngizwakala ngizothi mbo ngizithulele futhi ngikhohlwe ngayo, because years later it'll be something else. Some of you guys who listen to Jay-Z, there's a line where he speaks about an area in Brooklyn called Dumbo. If you go to Dumbo right now, it's the most sought after part of Brooklyn, because gentrification has taken place, and so much so that it's now upmarket. If you look at the cheapest one-bedroom apartment or two-bedroom apartment in that area called Dumbo, bro, you're talking crazy monies. And when you listen to his raps, and he talks about when he started rapping, if he could have invested in Dumbo then, as opposed to what it is now, and how much land and property is now there. It's the same here, whether it's Mulder's Drift, whether it's in Seshego, whether it's in Eastern Cape, Northwest, wherever it is. But your homework is to make sure that the land or the area or the development that you are potentially looking at or eyeing or targeting is within an environment where your returns on investments will yield positive profits in the future. And when you're thinking land, or when you're talking this language that we're talking, remember, you're not selfishly just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the people that you're going to pass on this wealth to. Because the language we're talking is generational wealth. Once you start talking land and property, that's generational wealth. It's not for you. It's for your kids and their kids and their kids' kids. Because this land has been around, this world has been around for millions of years. You can own it for a certain time, but then what about your children? What about their children? What about their children's children? So that's a mindset you need to apply when you're talking this language. It's unlike buying a batu shoe. It's unlike buying a car. It's a different ball game. It's not about you, but it's about the future of your family. That's why we call it generational. Thank you, my brother.
Definitely. No, thank you. And thank you for creating the space, for people to learn and to know more about property development and land. Thank you. I mean,
Looking forward to having you again in the future. This is your home. Whatever you might want to share, or some of the things you might want to speak about to potential investors out there, or the public, etc., or just property lovers, this is your home, my brother. You're more than welcome. Hit us a call, blow up my phone, or send a WhatsApp or whatever. Ntanga Sbuda, here are some opportunities. Maybe tell your people 1, 2, 3, and 4. And maybe lastly, once again, how do we find you? What are the social media platforms? What are the websites?
Yeah. Thank you. Our website, www.umnotho.org.za. But I would say just Google Umnotho Village. We should be popping there because of the exciting things that we're doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you.
All of this Property Talk Show has been proudly brought to you by Ekasi Noble Property Development, with 4 opportunities currently. They've got 4, Ekasi Noble, we've got 4 as well, 2 in Randfontein and 2 in the north of Johannesburg or around Roodepoort, Krugersdorp area. get in touch with Ekasi Noble Property Development and find out all the information you need to find out there. And if you're not a property investor yet, I'll ask you why and why not. That'll be the next question. And if you're like me, from Sampan Kilintwan in my 20s, I was so crazy about buying cars. But if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have bought more, I would have invested more in property than the amount of cars that I've ever bought. I mean, if I think about, all the dream cars that I've ever had, I've driven them all. But if you can ask me right now, where are they? I can't even point to them. But if that was property, that'd probably be worth 3 or 4 or 5 times more, if not more than that. So it just gives you an idea of the importance of property. Thank you very much, Mr. Gama.
Thank you. Yebo.
See you on the next episode.